Well, it wasn't the prettiest game in the world, but the Detroit Lions picked up their fourth win in a row after beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers yesterday. And now people are starting to talk about them as one of the best teams in the NFL. Let's talk about that and a whole lot more in some of my biggest takeaways. What's going on, Lions fans? Welcome to the Pride Detroit YouTube channel. I'm Miko, and in today's video, we are once again going to be talking about some of the biggest takeaways to come out of the Lions win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers yesterday. Now, the Lions got a tough, much-needed win, beating the Bucs 20-6 in a game where there were a couple hurdles that they had to overcome. But by overcoming those hurdles, the Lions not only picked up a much-needed win, I think they picked up some much-needed respect across the NFL because we're getting more and more people talking about this team, not just being one of the better teams in the NFC North or just one of the better teams in the NFC, but this could possibly be one of the best teams in the NFL, period. So what exactly took place that really stood out to me yesterday? Let's talk about that starting right now. Now, if we're going to talk about big takeaways and if we're going to talk about overcoming adversity and just overcoming the hurdles that got laid in your way, there's no way we can have this conversation without talking about the performance that Jared Goff had yesterday. JG put on one of the most impressive performances by a quarterback that I think we've seen this year. Now, I'll be very honest and transparent here. Anybody who's ever watched me on YouTube or at least heard me talk about Jared Goff knows that I'm not his biggest fan. I'm not his biggest supporter. However, going into this year, I did come to the realization that, you know what, JG doesn't have to be the best quarterback in the NFL to help this team win. He doesn't have to have the biggest arm. He doesn't have to be the most talented with the football. He just has to do what he does best, and that will eventually help this team win more games than they lose. And I feel like yesterday was the epitome of that, but also with a special cherry on top. Because in a lot of games where we've seen JG be successful, it's typically once the rushing attack has got going and they've been able to play action, teams to death, and he's able to just get into a rhythm and execute against defenses. That's not what happened yesterday, though. After David Montgomery got hurt, Jared Goff immediately had all the pressure of this offense thrown upon his shoulders because there wasn't any rushing attack to be seen with the likes of Craig Reynolds, with the likes of Divine Ozigbo. They struggled running the ball yesterday, yet they still found ways to be effective and still found ways to put up points and still found ways to control clock while still throwing the ball. And that's all credit given to Jared Goff. I'm not even going to sugarcoat this or try to take away from him by giving some credit to Ben Johnson, because what Jared Goff was doing on that field against that defense specifically is very impressive. The fact that he was able to throw for 353 yards, the fact that he was able to still get 2 touchdowns on 3rd and longs, one to Amon-Ra St. Brown that was credited and assisted by an amazing block by Craig Reynolds, and then an amazing throw and adjustment. Well, maybe not an amazing throw, but definitely an amazing adjustment by JMO on a deep throw from Goff that helped them get into the end zone and extend that lead even further. What Jared Goff has been able to do this season so far is nothing short of impressive, and he deserves way more credit and way more acknowledgement for executing and leading this offense in a big way. He's top 5 when it comes down to passing yards. He's top 5 when it comes down to completion percentage. He's leading the league in passes over 20 yards, something that even I have criticized him for and saying that he doesn't do well. He's doing it. So after yesterday's game, I think we all need to become much more comfortable with the idea that Jared Goff is going to be not just one of the quarterbacks that helps this team, lead themselves to the playoffs, but he's going to be in the MVP conversations. He's going to be starting to get talked about in that light. He's going to start to get that conversation of, is he a top 5 quarterback? Those are all irrelevant as of right now, because the thing that's most important is that he is playing a style of football and he's playing with a level of consistency and confidence that's at least helping this team win and keeping them in that conversation of being one of the better teams in the NFL, period, right now. Speaking of people that probably aren't getting enough credit or attention for the work that they've been doing on this Lions team, that brings me to Aaron Glenn. A couple weeks ago, people were calling for Aaron Glenn's job because of the performance that the Lions put out there against the Seattle Seahawks. And trust me, I get it. Having to lose another game to the Seahawks and in a fashion where the defense just isn't doing enough was easily frustrating to a lot of people. And I get that. However, I think since then, we've been able to see the type of work and effort and attention to detail that AG has been able to put into this defense because it has definitely turned a corner since that Seahawks game. We're talking about a defense that has yet to allow a 100-yard rusher all season. We're talking about a defense that has been able to find ways of creating turnovers in just about every game that they've played this year. We're talking about a defense that even yesterday only allowed 251 yards of total offense. And I get it. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers may not have the most flashiest quarterback, but they do have weapons on the outside. And Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are two guys that give other teams fits, and they could have easily done the same thing with the Lions. It's a testament to how much better this defense has gotten from top to bottom. And it's not because it's not like just one unit is heavily, dominating the field and therefore making it or covering up for other units. The defensive line is being very stout. They're creating pressures. They're being able to hold up against the run, limiting those big rushing plays by the opposing team. The linebackers are showing great ability to rush to the ball and being able to show that they can be supportive in both the pass and running game. The corners have been great. I don't know how many times I'm going to have to go on here, and I'm probably going to have to do a video separate of just how impressive Cam Sutton has been, but also in that same light, how good Jerry Jacobs has been the last few weeks. Then you start talking about the safeties and the fact that you have Tracy Walker being able to fill in for CJ GJ and is doing it admirably. And then you get Kirby Joseph getting back in the lineup yesterday. And Kirby had a couple plays where I think he could have been a little bit better, but for the most part, this defense is just firing on all cylinders. And a lot of that credit should be and is rightfully deserving to go to Aaron Glenn. This defense is now third in defensive DVOA. They're fifth against the pass in DVOA, third against the run in DVOA. They are a defense that is arguably one of the best in the NFL by just how they've played the last couple weeks. And I know there could be some argument made about the quarterbacks that they've gone against. And obviously Patrick Mahomes is the best one they've gone against. And Gino, had a game against them as well. But you can only control what your schedule kind of puts out in front of you. And when they've played against lesser talented or lesser experienced quarterbacks, they've done what good teams should do. And they've done what good defenses should do. You take advantage of them. You make life hard on them. And that's a credit to the philosophy and the adjustments that Aaron Glenn has made with this defensive talent. Because again, it's not like he's gotten a huge influx of new star talent. A lot of these guys were on the roster last year. He's just got them into a system and got them playing a style of football that is just leading to more success on the defensive end. And that for him is something that he should be getting way more praise and way more credit for. And it should be something and a good reminder to a lot of us that we need to probably pump our brakes a little bit the next time we want to offer criticism just because the team has one bad game. Now, another big observation that I had coming out of this game is, like we know, when it comes to the NFL, injuries are a big part of the sport. And one of the things that you typically hear a lot of coaches say whenever they start dealing with injuries is, hey, we got to have the next man up. And for a lot of people, that just comes across like coach speak. And I'll be honest, sometimes it comes off that way to me as well. But with this team specifically, that next man up mantra is something that has been very real. And the guys that are filling in are taking that very seriously. The Lions went into this game missing Jonah Jackson on that offensive line and decided to replace him with Coyote Awasika off their practice squad. And to be honest, Awasika had an amazing game from what I was able to see. Typically against that type of defensive line, you would expect a dude coming up from your practice squad to probably get exposed a little bit and have a number of, issues, whether it's with penalties or just with assignments or just getting blown up on specific plays. And that wasn't the case. This offensive line, while didn't look nearly as polished as they have in other games, especially when it came to the run game, still held up really well and allowed Jared Goff to be relatively clean. They did give up 3 sacks, but for the most part, gave him time to, be able to survey the field and be able to make throws down the field and help this team continue to find success offensively. And then you talk about Will Harris, who's filling in for Brian Branch, being able to get an interception off of a tip pass from Isaiah Buggs, who, speaking of Isaiah Buggs, wasn't active these first couple weeks of the NFL season, and since then has at least been able to find ways of making plays for this defense and for this team so that they can find a little bit more success and more comfortability in their defensive play sets. It just so happens to be that no matter where you look on this team, whether it's offensively or defensively, you can find guys that are willing to come up and fill in whenever the Lions suffer an injury or they have someone come out for a couple plays. That next man up mentality is very real for this team. And like Dan Campbell says, I think that is a big credit to the job that Brad Holmes has done in both drafting, signing free agents, and making the occasional trade here or there. They're getting guys that aren't just, backstop guys. They're just not, here to fill a void on the roster. They're here so that in the event that these injuries do occur, that they can have guys that they can come in and do an admirable job. Again, Craig Reynolds is another really good example of that. Without having a guy like Craig Reynolds on this team, we can all attest to the fact that amon-ra probably doesn't score on that touchdown. But because you have a guy that's willing to do the dirty work and isn't just caught up in, being able to rack up rushing yards, you are able to get that type of success and that type of, cohesion and camaraderie on this team, so that you have guys that, again, no matter what the situation, no matter what game, no matter how much time they've been on the team, they feel like they can call these guys and they can come up and make a play on any given game. And last but not least, another takeaway that I have from this game is that this is a team that will literally travel anywhere and play anyone in any type of conditions, no matter how the game may be going. Dan Campbell kind of talked about it last year during Hard Knocks. It didn't matter if it was in a landfill. It didn't matter if it was the weather wasn't great. This team would play anyone and be willing to take them to the limit. And that's what they've done so far this year. 3 road games, and they've won all 3. And a lot of that credit definitely goes to the coaching staff and their ability to get these players to buy in and to commit to that idea that, hey, you need to be ready and be prepared to play no matter where you go. Another amount of that credit needs to go to these fans, though. The fans that are either traveling to these games or these fans that live in these cities and are buying tickets and helping to take over stadiums and help these games start to feel a little more comfortable for the away team. What we've seen from the Lions fan base in these away games, you've seen it on Twitter, you've seen other people talk about it. It's real in the sense that, like, I can't think of another fan base that travels like this, that is really going into other stadiums, and by the third, fourth quarter, making this feel like a home game and giving this offense and defense so much more energy and so much more, confidence to be able to perform at a high level. So yes, the team deserves a lot of credit for being able to play so well on the road. But at the same time, the fans need a round of applause for themselves as well for continuing to show so much support this far into the season. And I hope it continues. We have another tough matchup against Baltimore, and I hope we continue to still see that sea of blue at M&T Stadium, because if that's the case, if this continues to be a running theme where, again, Lions fans are just taking over other stadiums, that's the type of stuff. It's the small little bit of an edge that you can give your team that gives them a little bit more confidence and a little bit more, comfortability to be able to pull these wins out, even in hostile territory. So that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know what some of your biggest takeaways were from yesterday's game. Maybe it was something I mentioned. Maybe it was something I didn't mention. There were so many good moments to come out of this game. I didn't get a chance to talk about JMO. I didn't get a chance to really go on a soliloquy about how great amon-ra has been, especially coming back from his injury. Let me know in the comment section below what stood out to you. Also, if you're looking for more Lions content, you guys already know you can head over to the Pride of Detroit website and catch any of the new articles that we posted over there. And last but not least, if you're new to this channel, or if you just want to share this channel with someone else, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to share this, YouTube channel with other people, and also be sure to hit that notification bell. That way you can be notified every time we upload a brand new video to this channel. So with all that said, I'm Miko. Thank you guys again for taking the time to watch this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.